back to the concept of redistribution of wealth. From the other side, a lot of people say, I have property rights. And it's oppressive for a government to overtax me, and in reality, I have a right to protect my property or to have my property protected by the government, and no one else has a right to take it from me. What do you think of those people that say that?
Well, I think they're a little bit out of touch, because nobody has property, total property rights. Somebody can't build a pig farm next to my house here. When nobody has pure property rights. So again, it's just a question of where you draw the line. And I think that's just a question of balance. I don't know exactly. I mean, I do have some property, and certainly I like to use it the way I can. I would like to build an alternative. I have a few hundred acres, and I'd love to build some alternative houses on there, but it's impossible because of the laws. So I feel like I can't exercise a really legitimate use of my property. All I want to do is create some sustainable living, but you have to start out with an 8-inch water line, so you can have fire hydrants and roads, and they've got this all fixed according to one formula. So nobody has right to their property. You can't have rights to your property when you live in a group. You got to have laws, and it's all a compromise.
Would you say that redistribution of wealth is synonymous with the expansion of social programs? Such as welfare, things like that?
Yeah, certainly social programs are one way to redistribute wealth.
Okay. What do you say to those who advocate the position that expansion of social programs and redistribution of wealth kind of removes a person's spine and creates dependency, weakens a people?
That is a real legitimate point, and I'm sure it does happen. Again, it's a system of trade-off, and it's also how it's administered. Now, healthcare, I don't know that would be the case with healthcare, that would make people weak. Welfare, you can, most of the welfare, they want to put welfare mothers back to work, but a good portion of welfare goes to single moms, and it's really tough to pull them from their children. So it really all depends on the details, I think, and which program you're actually talking about.
Have you ever lived in an area of the world where social programs were a big part of people's lives, as far as where there's been a lot of welfare, I guess, being distributed, more than southern Utah?
I'm really not. I have known a few welfare cases, but I'm really not that familiar.
Got it.
Most of the people I know are not on welfare.
Got it. Now, the environment seems to have been a large emphasis in your campaign. Around here in southern Utah specifically, what problems do you see with the way people are treating the land?
Well, there's some, there's ATVs that tend to, mess things up. There's air quality standards. That's another thing, all the construction. And there's some gypsum plants and a few things that put out a lot of particulate in the air. The way people use the land around here, it doesn't seem to be too damaging. My concern, though, is not with just the way the land is used. My concern is really with these larger questions, like with global warming, these large things that are really, really out there. Air quality. ATVs, I'd rather not have them tear up the desert, but it's pretty minor. I'm really more concerned with these larger issues.
Do you believe that the science behind global warming is completely beyond dispute, and that we've arrived at conclusions that are, well, indisputable?
No, because that's not the nature of science. And with something as complex as climate, there's always going to, you just can't pin it down. What scientists generally do is get a consensus among them, and it's not even it's just among them, and they have journals, and they have, legitimate journals, and you just get a consensus among scientists, and first of all among climatologists, because we're talking about climate. And there is a really, really good consensus among climatologists that this is happening.
Do you think climatologists that dissent from the view of conventional climatology wisdom are up in the night? I guess people who say that global warming is not occurring.
There's a huge denial in industry out there that's been going on since the 70s. They borrowed their techniques from the tobacco industry. And Exxon has been a major supporter, but also General Motors and Ford, I think it's the Coalition on Global Warming. They've been pounding this thing since they first realized that this was a real threat to their industry. And so that confuses, that muddies the water tremendously. I mean, they have over 130 organizations that are grassroots organizations that they built, that are putting out information that global warming is a hoax. But anyone who wants to really inquire into it, you can find out, if you want to go and you want to read the really legitimate scientific papers in the legitimate scientific journals, it's indisputable. I mean, all the countries of the world and all their governments, including our own, have accepted it. So I think it's, for my mind, is beyond a doubt. Well, plus you can experience it. I mean, the ice caps are melting. It's indisputable. You can see them from a satellite. There's the hole over the North Pole. I mean, there's thousands of ways to measure that, as well as the temperature. They have ways of measuring the temperature, and they're definitely on the rise. 7 degrees in the poles.
So in implementing change in order to combat this global warming, how much of a hit should business and industry take?
Well, the truth is, we may have already passed the window. The second truth is that we have about a decade, 30, 40 years at the most. And if we don't deal with it during that, nature's going to take over, and global warming perpetuates, it runs on itself. So how big a hit? If I had my way, we would treat it many, many more times seriously than World War II. And the whole world would get together and try and do something about it. You need at least 80 to 90% cut in CO2, and that probably isn't politically realistic. So we will just have to face the consequences.
Now, when you say face the consequences, do you mean we are inevitably going to have to follow the path that industry is pushing us down?
I think they'll make a real effort to become greener, I think, industry, because it's not only global warming. There's a number of other things. Clean air alone is reason enough. Because global warming and clean air really take the same solution. You just got to stop putting all that stuff in it.